Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and our distinguished guest today is Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been a while. That's our
Yeah, it's
schedule.
great to have you, Ken. And let's talk about the latest chess news and see a couple of games because a lot of things are
Yes. Well,
happening. And
sad news today, of course,
once, yes,
is that Magnus Carlsen's mother passed away after a long illness.
unfortunately, that's a sad news, and that's why he's not playing, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yes. So there have been lots of condolence messages about that.
Yes,
And we extend our condolences as well, of course.
of course, yes.
World champion in this moment. Glad to have my own mother. She's a fan. So she'll be glad to see a new show. And yes, so the main thing though of the past 2 weeks has been the return of top level round robin tournaments. I guess the previous one was Norway Chess, and these are part of the Grand Chess Tour. And right now at the moment they're playing the Super United Rapid and Blitz in Croatia, a 5-day event, 3 days of Rapid, 2 days of Blitz, the one that Carlsen could not play in. But earlier this month, they played classical chess spanning June and July. So that's the Grand Chess Tour Super Bet Romania. And I had some mixed feelings about that tournament because of the 45 classical games, only 7 were decisive.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So I'm going to share just a window at the moment. Okay. So the only 7 games were decisive, which by what mathematicians call the pigeonhole principle means that at least 2 of the 9 rounds had all 5 games drawn. And in fact, there were 4 such rounds. But the first round had 2 decisive games, and one of them was Fabiano Caruana playing black against the new generation avant-garde Alireza Firouzja. The other game that I've teed up to show is Caruana's win over Dharmaraja Gukesh in the playoff. So this tournament, with so few decisive games, ended with a 4-way tie for first on 5 out of 9. And those players played a playoff, and Caruana won all 3 of his games. So here, however, we're going to see classical chess where, at least to judge from the draw percentage in the tournament, there was an incentive to play carefully. Okay. Well, actually, you are seeing the screen with the board, right?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing to notice is that, in fact, in the eval window showing in the chess.com, white was, in fact, significantly better for a lot of the game. So maybe black didn't play so carefully after all. And in fact, what black did was play openings an opening that I was notoriously known for. And unfortunately, I often met the fate that could have befallen black with more accurate play by Firouzja. Other thing about this tournament is instead of the FIDE standard time control of 90 minutes for 40 moves and then 30 minutes after turn 40 with the 30-second increment, this gave you the 2 hours up front to allocate as you like among all of the moves, and then the 30-second increment. So same time budget to turn 60, but more time up front, which, however, could cause greater time pressure at the end of games. So here's Caruana playing b6 early on, Queen's Fianchetto defense. So I was known to play that. And also, it's really funny, actually. I have always thought that it was bad for black to play bishop b7 before e6 in this position because white could play d5, shutting the bishop off. But and then in positions like this, the bishop would rather go to a6. However, in fact, black can play e6 and white cannot reinforce the center. So that's interesting. Maybe that's why I...
And what about f3 and followed by e4? Would that be
Yeah,
possible?
that's a definite way to play. Sure. and it's but the computer judges that this gives the initiative over to black because of white's bishop being on f4. So after the capture and black captures with the knight, you can't gain time with e4 because the bishop is hanging. So again, tactics play their role.
But wait a sec, after knight d5, bishop d2, for example, I still can proceed with... I would play d2, bishop d2.
d2, okay. All
Yeah,
right. So, but then I think something's gone wrong for white. And well, black is still playing e5 in this position.
And on e4 and e4.
Well, e4, knight f6. Yeah, let's see. Obviously, people go over these positions with computers nowadays, so we might as well do the same.
Yeah, okay.
I just don't trust white's position. White doesn't have any development. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you capture, black is going to like queen d4, right? Or something. Oh, yeah, this is fun. Oh yeah, this is just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's quite unpleasant.
That's right, unpleasant. There was a game like this in the World Senior Team this morning where John Nunn won on first board in 15 moves, completely destroying the opponent's king in the center with some sacrifices. So anyway. So
my idea f3 and e4, it's a caveman chess.
Right. But it's so if white already had a knight on c3 instead of bishop on f4, then what I was saying would be valid. But
so maybe bishop f4 is premature on second move.
Yes, it's the London wannabe system, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, white played knight c3, which the move cannot be criticized. And black played d6, which again is not how I play these positions. I would play e6, but black plays g6 now. I still would have. Well, actually, I wouldn't have my knight on f6 if I were going to do double fianchetto. So this is all very weird. So now white plays d5, move that I fear in this kind of position. But Kara just says, okay, I don't care about my light squared bishop being buried. I'll just develop the dark squared bishop. So white plays e4. This looks like a very good Benoni. And in a Benoni type position, white bishop on f4 makes sense. Well, it's a Benoni if black plays c5 or some more pawns get traded, I guess. So e5. White's bishop falls back, c5. So black has a pawn wedge on the queen side. But if you look at the evaluation is verging over the 0.7 mark. That is considered by Larry Kaufman to be a substantial advantage for white. And black can get a knight to c5, but it's not necessarily going to be stable there as white is equipped to get into b4. So black plays c5 instead, thereby shutting off the knight as well as the bishop. This gets a question mark from chess.com. Just for positional reasons. Now white can go to business on the king side. We'll see in the other game that I'm going to show a case where black's play with f5 is effective, but that's not going to be the case here for a while. g4 is restraining black from playing knight g4 and also preparing a storm. And black falls back. Black's knight on c7 seems to be very badly placed. So now white begins the attack, and already the computer is showing over 2-pawn advantage for white. So the next question is, how does white manage to misplay this? So already white forces the issue, that's fine. But taking with the bishop is, I don't know, taking the bishop looks mighty attractive to me. But this is where chess gets very mysterious to me. So we want to play king g8. We switched to a different Stockfish engine. That's why the evaluation has gone down. But then just wants to play a4, stopping all of black's counterplay. b5 not being the case. And white's knight on g5 is really a permanent fixture in the position. It's not going to be moved, even if black can arrange f6. There's too many other things that would be weak. And after bishop a6, white just firms up with b3. Sorry, b3. There we go. And White is just going to castle or play king e2, double on the king side, and win. So anyway, so I'm sure that Firouzja thought the bishop on g5 was equally a permanent fixture in the position, but it was mistimed. It's not check. It allows black one gasp of counterplay. Okay, so anyway, so Firouzja says, ignore the counterplay. I'm going to make you even if I can't castle. Well, it allowed black's bishop on g4, and now this is just too slow. Now suddenly black is developed and white is not developed. So classical chess, all the time in the world to think, but actually not all the time in the world to think. So if you look at the clock times, Firouzja was already down to 14 minutes at this point. He'd had 48 minutes, but started using chunks of time, 12 minutes there, 16 minutes there on the decision to go for the attack. So Firouzja had already run himself short of time, and the time pressure was significant because of what I said about there not being a new lump sum of 30 minutes looming in the future. This is really 14 minutes plus increment for the rest of the game. So Firouzja calculated this extremely complicated sacrifice, but in fact, objectively, it's just a fizzle. Okay, so objectively, black is equalizing, and this is a very nice move. Black is going to repel white on the h file with his own rook opposing white's rook. So knight f5 looks really strong, but in fact, there's no mate on the h file because black's rook is on h8. So white falls back, and white is still equal in this position, but the character of the position has changed. Now the character is about the fact that black has executed 2 pawn breaks and white has none. Okay, so black evicts the last attacker and makes a cubbyhole for the king, and black decides to, rather than play bishop, he takes c4.
Yeah, and black has extra pawn, the way I see it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there's also an extra pawn. We could make it 2 pawns here, and that's apparently allows white to castle, and then maybe the king side is a feature again. Well, but I don't know. B takes c4 looks fine for black. So instead b4. Okay. So now basically what black has done is shut white's pieces out of play. Now maybe this is where experience in chess comes in. Okay, because really white is going to play f3 at some point. White does mistime it. White is going to play b3 at some point. Black can play f5, and then black will really have an extra pawn, but white should be able to erect a light square blockade. And it's not clear at this point how black is going to pressure the bases of white's pawn chain. The pawn on eventual pawns on b3 and pawn on f3. But Caruana must have some experience with this position because the endgame is really interesting, and in fact, white cannot prevent black from crashing through, as will happen. The only weakness in black's position is d6, but there's no way for white's knight to get there, except maybe g1, f3, h4, f5, because black pawn cuts off access to g3. Well, maybe that's what white is thinking in this position. Okay, so we take, and now queen f3 is the mistimed move. White had to play f3, and then that would have the extra virtue of allowing white's queen to come to h3 next, and they would essentially, black would still have the extra pawn, but white might have some light square compensation. Instead, this, and the problem is that now black's extra pawn makes it felt in a big way, because if you take b takes f5, then black is crashing through with e4 in these positions, maybe with some preparation. Okay, so white captured and played f3. So white is trying to erect the light square blockade. So now white has played f3 and b3. So the whole question is, can black break the blockade?
I think knight d7 probably is a good move. And
Yep,
if you take on g4, then knight f6.
Yes. So Okay, so knight is coming into f6, but here is white's all-purpose defender. The knight on d2 covering e4 and b3. And the question is, can black dislodge the knight? And the answer is yes, if black can get his bishop behind white's pawn structure, or if black can play the move f3. So the whole question becomes, well, white is going to play the king to f3. So now, can black simultaneously dislodge white's king off f3 and enable f3 to be played in a way that will get the white's king out of the blockade and be able to effect? So first stage of this plan is to embed the knight into white's position. Okay. And now white's king is even more active on g4. So the question is, can you force white's king to retreat? And the answer is apparently yes. Okay. So black marks time, white marks time. And now the question is, what's happening? Well, if bishop g1, then black will play actually like in the game. I thought f3, actually black can play f3 right away. Okay. So the engine actually already sees that black is winning this position, and it looks surprising because it seems that white has a blockade. But in fact, after a little bit of timing, black achieves the key arrangement and how he intended to prosecute the game. Okay, so white has two choices here. One is to allow what happened in the game, and that actually brought about a quick collapse. And let's just see what happened. Okay, so black just played, a safe move. What king g6 is preventing is it's preventing white's cheapo knight takes e5 and d6, d7, d8, making a queen, aided by white's bishop. White can't defend the b3 pawn, and in fact, Firouz just sacrificed pawns. But after this, he gave up. White's pawns are not going anywhere. White is going to lose another pawn. Okay, so the actual interest in this position is what would have happened had white dropped back the king to f3. Okay, so the answer is black infiltrates in the sense of being able to filter into the position. This is almost a kind of Zugzwang. Okay, well, it's not really. Black's plan is simply going to be to ooze the bishop up to g4, and then black's king will be able to come around in the long manner. Okay, so if we just play, there are horizon effects with the computer, so the computer's play might not be completely consequent. But this is actually really pretty. Well, white does not want to trade bishops. Let's let's trade bishops. Okay, so now this really is going to be Zugzwang because white's king is going to have to give way and allow black's king to enter. And black can win in various ways. Black can take over the wonderful d4 square for the knight, and then that knocks white's king out of f3. Black can bring the king around here. Okay, he's trying to keep white out. It's hard to tell what the best moves are from just playing like this, but this is the basic pattern. I guess black just black has to. I guess white can keep playing here. So black has to arrange this kind of position with its being white to move. Though frankly, I think I'll just play this. White cannot capture on f3. The king and pawn ending is obviously lost. Maybe I'm not being totally accurate here, but black is certainly going to make progress either by winning the b3 pawn or by penetrating with the king. So anyway, so an interesting endgame by Caruana, merits further study. Firouzja's bishop and knight were not able to maintain a blockade, and that's interesting. I have a friend who was studying fortresses in chess, so it's interesting to see when an apparently solid fortress must fail, even when black has a nominally bad bishop and white has a supposedly good bishop.
Yeah, I remember the good example of Fortress chess is, I think it was sixth game of the match, Magnus Carlsen Nepomniachtchi, when it was long ending and Magnus found a way how to crush his um, defensive system. So Fortress didn't survive. And actually, Magnus was one who declared that there are no fortresses in chess. He can crush any of them.
Yeah, you may be right. Okay, well, we're gonna see a different game. We're gonna look over the okay. So Super Romania Chess Classic, and this is just want to show the denouement of the tournament. All games were drawn in round 5, but Firouzja struck back and won in round 6. So Firouzja finished with 5 points and made the playoff, and actually won 2 out of his 3 games. Lost the decisive game to Caruana again in the playoff. Round 7 all draws. Round 8 all draws. Round 9, one game where Anish Giri prevented Fabiano Caruana from winning the tournament outright by knocking him down into the tie with a win. But Caruana nevertheless won the game. And I'm sorry, it's not Caruana over Gukesh. No, the game that I selected to show is Praggnanandhaa over Gukesh. Sorry, there is this game by Fabi over Gukesh as well. Well, I'll show that actually. Okay. I'm sorry, I confused 2 games as to which I want to show, but I'll show both fairly quickly. So this was a rapid played with 10 minutes plus 5 second increment. So fairly fast-paced rapid tie-break games, allowing 15 minutes to turn 60. And so again, Caruana is playing openings I used to play, except I'm much happier with this one. I'm quite happy with Black not having Fianchetto, the dark squared bishop, having a target on e5 that I can attack. And this is anyway going to be a quite normal hedgehog position. So not one of my openings. Usually more often happens with Black. There's nothing wrong with the classic hedgehog. You can play your moves really quickly, so it's good for rapid. Black is not close to breaking through, and in fact, Black is not even able, judges himself, not even able to get a pawn to f5. So already, even though White does not have a piece beyond the 3rd rank, the computer is judging a fairly substantial 2/3 of a pawn advantage to White. And so that's White could have struck with the d4 break, but instead White contents himself with putting his pieces on good squares. This is wonderful. Okay, so White doesn't have an advantage according to the computer, but White has achieved some aims and has all these nice squares for the pieces. And this maybe was misjudged by Black. We have 2 bishops against 2 knights. And Black is able to come into the 7th rank, but there's nothing doing with that. And this is just a really nice build-up. The computer already says White has had 2 pawns, Black being in real trouble. And Black really cannot resist what White is going to do. White is eventually going to take over squares. Okay, so already one problem with Black's position is the rook cannot defend the d-file. Okay, so that let Black into the game. It's rapid chess after all. But Black still has more holes than White does. And when you're playing fast chess, holes matter for things. So I'll play quickly through this. Yeah, apparently this was a mistimed attack, and h4 gaining space on the king side would have kept the pressure on. Okay, Black didn't find the right order of moves, so White's bishops get more active. White wins back to pawn. So is this winning for White? Here's another position with an extra pawn. Can Black maintain a fortress? Computer says it's probably drawn, but Black allowed White to get an attack on the light squares. Here we are, attack on light squares, and white is winning again. Right, white mistimed it, but now white really is winning, and this time white does not give it up. Bishop g6, nice tactic. Okay. Now white is clearly winning, so just 2 points up. There are more moves only because it's fast chess. People down to playing on the increments, and black resigned. Okay, so that's Caruana's win over Gukesh as advertised. But the last game I'll show, because of the interesting opening play and some positional ideas that people, is actually Praggnanandha's win over Gukesh with the black pieces. Okay, so so this is early, so without bringing out the bishop, white plays in these very common, quiet, slow build-up gioco piano things. But here, white plays a little more maybe in the spirit of the Vienna game by accelerated fianchetto of the bishop. The question is, however, though, is can black do something active to take advantage of white's slow play? The computer already says black is equalized, but I think the computer isn't really telling the story here. Now, lesson number 1, pushing rook's pawns to a4 can be effective in positions like this. So black actually has a fair amount of space. Maybe the a pawn would become weak in some position, but no, black has a fairly well-developed queenside initiative, game still equal. White, on the other hand, attacks with the f4. So this is a case where the typical Vienna strategy of attacking with f4 is going to bear some fruit, and could have borne fruit if white had timed things correctly with the initiative on this side of the board. Okay, so okay, so we're playing strategic chess. Okay, so now the question is, are white's pawns strong or weak? Same thing about black's pawns. White has some good squares. So it's still objectively an even position, but white is certainly the one pressing in this position. And normally opening up the game for the two bishops should be a good idea. But another feature of this position is black having 2 versus 1 on the queen side. So, but yep, this is actually a win for white. Okay, so even though the computer says black can equalize, in fact, these positions are very difficult to hold for black, because white is more tactical possibilities, and we're going to see a very nice tactic now. Okay. So the nice tactic, what black didn't perceive in this position, is that when white pushes a pawn to b7 and black plays king c7, white will have d6 check, protecting the pawn on b7. So whether players see this is unclear. Now, they were down to just seconds in this rapid play. So the win for white is to play this. Okay. And then to play d6 check. And now you can bring up your king. And eventually what you will do is you have to time this right. Well, let's see. I guess actually it's saying king a7 is a draw here. Let's see. Okay, so I actually do have to time it right. This is more subtle than I thought when I was looking at this game. So you have to play this move first, so that if king c7, and you can play king c5. Wow. Okay, this is more subtle than when I was looking at this. And as you notice, the computer lines are gyrating rapidly. So this actually will reward a much more careful analysis than I put in before the game. Okay. So this is anyway the motif, but white did not see it in this position. So black could have brought the bishop around to defend the other way. But black actually pushed the pawns. So now we get this motif. And now the problem is that black does not have a way to advance on the queen side. Even if you capture the pawns are ragged. So they're able to time this and win before black came out. Okay, so anyway, let me just see. All right, so those are the games that I prepared, except that I must confess I was looking at. Oh, okay, wait. Okay, so I was looking at yes. Okay, so I'm sorry. I was intending to present Caruana's win over Praggnanandhaa. So let me just play the first 16 moves of this, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So sorry, I got my preparation crossed in this. So sorry. The last point I was meaning to make was actually Caruana's win in the last round. He needed to win, but Firouzja was also in contention in this tie-break playoff. So again, 10 minutes plus 5-second increment. So white is playing a stonewall formation with the bishop on g5 outside the pawns, and white gets rid of the nominally bad bishop. However, black has a little bit more in the center, and white can't just stick a piece on e5 because it might be driven away. But bishop f6 may be not the right way to do it. Now that sticking a piece on e5 is effective, and this should be good for white. Okay, because white has the square f4. So I would say already something has strategically gone wrong for black. And black has a questionable bishop. White has a good knight. It just needs to get to better squares such as f4, and that'll take some time. However, so we're going to f4, and this now is where both players make a fundamental mistake in the position. So white's plan is knight h3, a4, f4, and black needs to say, well, how can I get some counterplay? I want to put the bishop on a6. I want to castle, tuck the king away in the corner, and then maybe be able to have things come on the c file. Instead, black puts pawn where it's going to become a fixed weakness. But in order to make it a fixed weakness, white has to judge either to play h4 and fix the pawn, or to play rook f4 and overpower the h4 square so that black cannot put a piece on it. But instead, white went through the plan a little bit too glibly, and now black plays h4. And black is maybe okay in this position because white cannot gang up on h4 faster than black now. And black has air and space. So furthering with what I did in the previous game where black played a4, it's a good idea, especially in closed positions like this, to push the pawn to the fourth or fifth rank forward, supported by a rook. So now Caruana's position, I would judge, is fundamentally okay. And now white sort of makes an attempt to break through, but underestimates black's counterplay. And I'll abbreviate just by saying that white was equal for a lot, but in a rapid chess, a lot of bad things are going to happen. And if you underestimate black's play on the queen side, bad things happen. White lost the b pawn in the game. So, okay. All right, so that was the notable ideas that I found in looking over the play of last week's Superbet Romania Chess Classic and the Rapid Playoff.
Ken, thank you so much for the games that you've shown, and I hope I'll see you soon again. And we'll wish everybody
Happy
happy
travels to Montreal.
holidays,
Say hi to
travels,
people at the Canadian Open.
and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye
See
bye.
you.